In this video, we would like to provide you with an overview on the forecast to plan domain of our business flows reference model. In order to explain our understanding of planning, I will give you a step-by-step introduction into our reference planning landscape, which is the basis for the forecast to plan domain. Like our business flow reference model, also the forecast to plan landscape is structured roughly following the SCORE model. But in addition to SCORE, we bring in a second dimension into the landscape, which is the aspect of having operational versus strategic nature of activities. Furthermore, it is important to understand that we focus on the manufacturing industry within this model. On the operational level, we see procurement, production scheduling, warehousing and transportation, as well as demand fulfillment as elements. All these elements need to stay aligned to really operationalize the supply chain. The focus in these areas lies on actual execution. Planning is here limited to detailed sequencing of activities only. In business flows, these areas are represented in end-to-end domains: procure to pay, plan to produce, inbound to outbound, and order to cash. Each of these operation-related domains has a corresponding planning discipline. As we are talking about the forecast to plan, I will start with the demand planning, which is the planning discipline which generates planned quantities sold, meaning a forecast. Demand planning is typically based on historic data, customer information, general market intelligence, or marketing and R&D information. It is often done as manual forecast, cascading throughout the sales organization, or supported by statistical forecast algorithms. The demand plan, or forecast, needs to be derived on a predefined aggregation level, which will then be basis for other planning disciplines. After having a look at the demand side, we now have a look at the supply side. Let's start with production planning, as this is most commonly related to the term planning. Production planning is the planning discipline which generates feasible, cost-efficient production plans based on other planning disciplines' input and current customer orders. After production planning has been conducted, a detailed scheduling, part of plan to produce, still needs to follow before start of actual production. Boundaries between production planning and detailed scheduling are often blurry and depend on the specific situation. Less often mentioned, but still necessary to consider, is the procurement planning discipline. Procurement planning determines the necessary supply of materials and services from external sources in accordance to requirements. Procurement planning provides input to purchasing for identifying, qualifying, and contracting suppliers. In other words, to strategic sourcing. To reduce complexity, we do not explicitly show this interface on our landscape. The interface to operational procurement includes the provision of supply sources and guidelines in case of multiple available suppliers. In our forecast to plan domain, we focus on procurement of direct materials and direct services, such as subcontracting. The last supply planning discipline is distribution planning. Distribution planning generates the plan on how to allocate stocked products within a given supply network and thereby defines the planned storage utilization per warehouse. In addition, it generates a plan for transport quantities on the different transport routes within the distribution network and a plan of foreseen distribution center activities such as cross-docking or pick and pack. After introducing demand planning and the three supply planning disciplines, we are missing a link. we need to talk about master planning. Master planning is building the bridge between supply and demand plans, as well as aligning the results. Master planning is often run in cascades to break down results for other planning disciplines, or aggregating these. The focus in Forecast to Plan needs to be on mutual alignment and consideration of results from all planning disciplines in order to achieve an overall feasible supply and demand plan. This tremendously important orchestration is provided by sales and operations planning alignment. In our business flows reference model, we represent the 5 planning disciplines as so-called scenario clusters within the Forecast to Plan domain. Scenario clusters can include multiple scenarios showing different business use cases which impact the process flow. For example, you will find a midterm production planning and a short-term production planning here. In contrast to the planning disciplines, S&OP is not represented as a scenario cluster, but as a functional process group. The S&OP process group includes processes used overarching in different planning scenarios and, in addition, important standalone processes. Sales and operations planning is considered as the embracing function that orchestrates the different planning disciplines and links strategic to mid- and short-term planning. A typical interface to strategic planning is master planning's connection to the strategic network planning, S&P. Due to its high strategic nature, we consider S&P itself not as part of Forecast to Plan domain, but rather as a part of strategic planning. Our representation of Forecast to Plan in business flows emphasizes the interconnections of the different planning disciplines. I hope this introduction helped you to understand the structure of the Forecast to Plan domain and provided a first peek into our perspective on planning. In case you would like to have further information, please don't hesitate to contact us. And have a look at our free trial of business flows, which you can find on our webpage.